Hello everyone. So this is the first in a series of videos that I am going to be doing for this class to help you get acclimated with Stata. This is going to be a very basic overview of Stata and really what it looks like. We're not going to start using it yet to do anything. I just want you to get an idea of what it looks like, what all the windows are for, so that when we start to do stuff, you really know what it is that you're looking at. So first of all, I want to say I'm clearly doing this on a Mac. You can see that from the Apple at the top left, and of course the bottom looks like a Mac setup. So it's going to look a little bit different if you are functioning on a PC. But the basic things that you are going to see are going to be exactly the same. Okay, so here we have Stata open up. I'm using Stata version 13. So if you have an earlier version of Stata, again, it might look a little bit different, but a lot of the things are going to be exactly the same. So the first thing I want to point out to you is that Stata has 4 windows that we're looking at right now. We have a review window, a results window, a variables window, and a command window. And we're going to be using all of these things at some point, but I really want to just summarize what all these windows do. Once we load a data set into Stata, all the variables that are listed in that data set are going to show up in this variables window. And I'm going to actually load a data set in a few minutes, so we'll see what that looks like. So all the variables will be here, their name, the label that they have, and then there are some variable properties down here that you can look at. The command window is where we can directly type commands to give to Stata. One of the things that we'll be doing in probably the next video is looking at how Stata allows you to do things 3 different ways. You can do point and click, you can enter commands directly in the command window, or you can use do files. And so if we were going to be entering commands directly, we would be typing them here in this command window. Anytime we type a command in this command window, it is going to show up in the results window along with any relevant output. So you can see I just opened Stata. It asked me if I wanted to do some updates. So I said go ahead and check for updates. It looks like there weren't any. So anything that Stata wants to give back to me, it's going to put in this results window. So most of the commands that we do in Stata, we're going to be looking at the results in this results window. Now there are other ways to view the results that Stata gives as output. That is a video that comes much later, probably not even in this class. So you don't need to worry about that for right now. So that's the third window, the results window. Now, every time we type a command, or every time we do point and click, or every time we run something from a do file, it's going to show up here in the review window. And so as we type commands in, we're going to see the commands that we've typed. And this is really handy because you can actually reuse commands just by clicking on them. So I'm going to load a data set so that you can see what this looks like. Stata comes with some generic data sets already loaded in it. And so we're going to be using one of those data sets today. We're going to use the auto data set. And so any of these preloaded data sets, we're going to use a command called sysuse, which is SYSUSE. Now, typically, if we were just going to use a data set that we had on our one of our directories on our computer, we would just use the use command. The sysuse command tells Stata that we're going to be using one of those system data sets, the built-in data sets that Stata comes with for this very purpose, so that we can actually practice using the different things that Stata has to offer. So we're going to actually type into the command window sysuse auto, and you can see it loaded a 1978 automobile data set, and all of a sudden now we have stuff to look at, right? over here in the variables window, we can see all of the variables that this data set has. Now, if I were to click on one of these variables, you'll see now down here in the properties window, there are some properties. Label, the type, the format, don't worry about that. That will come in a later video. But you can see what all those things are here, and there's a few more things down here that we can look at. You can also see that since I typed a command in the command window, Stata shows the command in the results window, but also over here in the review window, we can see Sysuse auto, which is the command that I gave to Stata. Now, if we were to want to do that again, we could just click on that and it will redo that command. Obviously, redoing an open command is not a very helpful thing to do because we already had it open, but you can reuse the commands that are in this window. A couple other things, just looking at the Stata, not even using Stata, is that this view can be changed if you go to the View menu and go to Layout. And instead of a widescreen view, you could do a combined view, where it will take the variables window and move it over to one side. So if you wanted to have those combined, you could. Now, I prefer this one, particularly because I often use this computer to project, and the screen gets a little bit narrower when you project. So I like to have my variables over here with the review window. You can always also click on this little arrow by variables, and it will hide that properties window if you don't really need to look at those properties. So I'm going to leave that properties window hidden because we don't really need to see that, and if we need any of that information, we can actually use a command called describe, which we'll see in a video coming up soon. You'll see here if I hover over this bar, I'll get this double arrow, so I can actually make the variables smaller and the review pane bigger, or vice versa, depending on what I need. I'm going to leave it right about here so I can see all the variables in the data set, but still have a good number of the commands that I've used. Okay, so we see all these variables, and as we talked about in class, a data set is basically a spreadsheet, right? It's a spreadsheet where along the left-hand column you have different observations, and all the columns in the data set are variables. So if we were to click on Data Browser, you can actually see that spreadsheet. Over here we have observation 1, observation 2, observation 3, and so on. And along the top we have our variables: make, price, MPG, and all the other things that we have to in this data set, all the other variables. Now you'll see that some of these things are red, so AMC Concord is red. That is because this is a string variable. It's a text you can see up here. It says AMC Concord, whereas price is a quantitative variable. Now here you see that domestic is blue. That's because domestic is the label, but the value is actually 0. So this is a categorical variable. It's a 0, 1 variable, but it has a label attached to it where foreign is 1 and domestic is 0, which is why this is blue instead of red, which is what these string or text variables are. Now you'll see I previously opened up the data browser and not the data editor. That is because when you open the data browser, you just want to see what your data looks like. It's a safe way to open it up because if you type on this, go to this cell, you can see and possibly hear, if the video picked it up, that Stata doesn't like that because this is only a browser. You can only look. If you wanted to edit something, you can open the data editor, but you want to make sure that you want to edit it and not just look at the data. So I almost never open the data editor. So I think that's about it for this intro on using Stata, or actually shouldn't say using Stata, I should say looking at Stata. We're going to do some other things in some videos coming up, but this at least will help you understand what it is that you're looking at when you are just looking at the Stata window. That's it for now, and I will see you all in class.